Declaration of Interdependence. We need to rescue our democracy. Our government has been corrupted. You have to be a narcissist in the first place to want to get on camera as much as all these fools in politics do, don't you? Yeah. Our press has been corrupted as well. Our press is more than willing not only to feed the narcissism, but to further the narcissist agenda, which doesn't include us. It's time to rescue our press, our media, our democracy. Time to turn our press back into what it's meant to be, an honest, independent, uncorrupted reporter to the American people whose sole purpose is to give us the truth, one that isn't beholden to any corporation, one that only exists for the greatest good of the American people, not the smallest percentage of our society. I think with where technology is now and where it's sure to go, that we can have something like an internet vote, majority rules on everything. We don't need a House. We don't need a Senate. We don't need a president. Internet vote, majority rules. With correct oversight and regulation to prevent voter fraud, this system could work beautifully. This would truly be a government of, by, and for the people. Did you know the Senate has a 3-day work week? I think we can handle that, don't you? Yeah, matter of fact, I know we can. And it seems like the House and the President are on vacation every other day on our dime, doesn't it? Yeah, the reason it seems like that is because they are. The benefits to society would be many. First and foremost, we'd have an informed citizenry, one that knows its vote counts. Because right now, everybody knows their vote doesn't count. Money counts. The fix is in, and we all know it. Well, no more. Internet vote, majority rules. The second benefit we get is we would get immediate change for legislation that needs to pass now for the American people. Immediate change. No more waiting weeks, months, years sometimes for legislation to pass that would help the American people because these fools in Washington are bickering back and forth. Well, meanwhile, when they get nothing done and go home to their gated community, the rest of us on the real American street are left to suffer another day. No more. Internet vote, majority rules. We get immediate change. We would get legislation that needs to pass now for the greater good of the American people. Want to go to war? Majority rules. Want to end that war? Majority rules. Want something like a public option? Majority rules. Want to raise taxes on the rich? Majority rules. Want to raise the debt ceiling? You want to make that what it should be, a non-issue? Majority rules. Want to make sure to enforce separation of church and state? Majority rules. Want access to higher education? Access to good jobs at a fair wage with benefits? Do you want to stop using dirty energy as our main source of power and invest in alternatives? Majority rules. The truth be told, our so-called public servants go right across the street after their public service is through and get jobs with big corporations with ridiculous salaries who, while they were public servants, got beneficial legislation passed for. You think that's a conflict of interest? I do. Matter of fact, I know it is. The polls show we all want the same thing. The honest polls show we all want the same thing. They all show that, one, we want something like a public option, health care for all. People are dying, for God's sake, for no other reason than greed. This is obscene what's been allowed to go on. No more. The honest polls also show we all want, two, for the rich to pay their fair share in taxes. And the honest polls also show we all want, three, for all the wars to end and for all the money to be spent here in America, on America and its citizens. No more. No more going to war unless we absolutely have to. Absolutely have to as a last resort. No more going to war for profit for the smallest percentage of our society, while the poorest people in our society have to fight those wars for them. No more. Now, I'm not just saying let's trash the system that's been in place for over 200 years. I'm saying let's fix it, because it's obviously broken. It's been corrupted. We can do this by getting organized, getting out in the streets in large numbers, and collectively hanging an under-renovation sign on Congress and the White House, meaning we demand that all our so-called public servants resign now. Now, we're starting to see movements right now, Wall Street and throughout the country, and that makes me very happy to see. I'm with you 100%, but we got to go further now. We have to go further. We have to go right after the institutions that are holding us down. We can't be happy just existing on the periphery. It's time to go in peacefully. It's time for us to demand that all of our current so-called public servants resign and are replaced by real public servants. People like me and you, people from the real American street, not the gated community. Representatives who will represent us, not the smallest percentage of our society. The same measures need to be taken with our Supreme Court, because they've proven to be just as corrupt as the politicians. They must be elected by the people to ensure they protect the rights of the people, not corporations, not the rich. And there have to be term limits. This was mentioned in the Articles of Confederation, and to date, the only place we see term limits is with the President. We need term limits on Congress and with the Supreme Court. Now, the best way to make these changes we know so desperately need to be made to make Washington work for the American people and not the smallest percentage of our society is to go after the root of the problem first. We need to demand that there is public financing for elections only. We've all seen the damage outside money inflicts on our democracy. Anonymous money with a hidden agenda that doesn't include what's best for America, only what's best for the smallest percentage of our society. There's a lot of great ideas floating around out there on how to make Washington run for the American people and not the smallest percentage of our society. And they should be put in place by the American people. This can be done via internet vote, majority rules. To ensure fair representation for all, we will make sure all have access to computers by setting up mobile voting stations wherever needed. While all these changes are being made, the day-to-day business of America will be run by the American people via internet vote, majority rules. Once all our newly elected representatives have been chosen, we will go back to the system our founding fathers created. A system that can only perform its true intent, serving the American people, when all of the corruption and greed have been removed from it. We have to be ready to get out in the streets again at all times, in all future generations, to stop corruption and greed if we see it creeping back into our democracy again. We can't afford to be complacent. We can't be dumbed down, misinformed citizens. That's what's got us into this mess in the first place. The key, the most important element of our movement is it has to be peaceful. Peaceful protest is the only way to make lasting, real change. Now, when I say the protesters that are currently out in the streets need to go farther, I mean peacefully. We need to be willing to get beat up if necessary. We have to take a lesson from the civil rights movement. We have to be willing to go all the way and not retaliate. That's the key. It has to be peaceful. Because the moment we retaliate, we're just as bad as our oppressors. Now, the French Revolution, to me, is the most horrific reminder of how even the best of intentions can be perverted when violence is introduced. The cause is lost, and death and even more suffering takes its place. Robespierre is one of history's best examples of why violence can't be used. There's a reason for the old saying, violence just creates more violence. The reason it's still heard today is because it's true. We need to follow such recent examples as Gandhi and MLK and all others before who used peaceful protest to create lasting, meaningful change for the good of all people. We need only to look at the most recent people's protest in England to see why this is still true. Their cause was and is still just. They are being repressed by the smallest percentage of their society, just like we are. But by using violence and looting, they have given their oppressors an excuse to use violence against them and imprison them. This allows their oppressors to escape the condemnation from the rest of the world they so rightly deserve. This also allows their oppressors to say, this is just a kids movement. This is just a movement by kids that want to go steal things. We all know that's not true. We all know they're feeling the same thing we're feeling, and people all over the world pretty much are feeling, that we all want an equal chance. Well, the way to get that is peaceful protest. Because violence only allows the suffering to continue, and the cause will be lost. We can have long-lasting, meaningful change for the good of all people, but it has to be achieved through peaceful protest only. Anything else will fail, and our suffering will continue. Thanks for your time, and may peace prevail on earth.